friends, and welcome back to my crafty space. My name is Crystal Iduniate, and today I'm excited to jump back into my Story Kit Crush series with a new story kit for July of 2022. Story Kit Crush is a series that I participate in every month. I pick a new story kit and generally follow the flow of the Ali Edwards releases, and I use the course of the month to tell at least one story every week. The hope in doing this is to actually bring out my product, tell my stories, and try to use as much of it up as possible. Now this month we are diving into the Senses story kit. Now this month I have an additional 5 stories that I am going to tell, and we're getting started with this first one that I have titled Makes Sense Now. The idea behind this story was using this card here that says, just because this makes sense now doesn't mean it always will. And I wanted to use this to talk about being a content creator and how sometimes we will start projects or start challenges or have our content, our media set up in a certain way that makes sense for our life and the chapter that we are living right now. But just because it makes sense right now doesn't mean that it always will. And I wanted to do a little bit of writing as a testament to that. So I pulled out this card and I decided I wanted to use this as a home for journaling. I printed off this little square of journaling that I typed out on my computer. The square here is sized at roughly 3.5 inches. It's slightly less than 3.5 inches by about 3.75 inches. I did that because I want to add this onto the yellow card here, so it creates a journaling space on top of the card. It doesn't cover up the title, and it still allows there to be a little bit of yellow around the outside to create a border. So first, let's go ahead and stick this down on the card just so we can get it out of the way. And then we will move on. Another thing I want to mention here while I'm sticking this down is I have started using timestamps and chapters inside of my YouTube videos. So if you're ever watching one of my videos and you want to skip over the introduction part, I will always have a section for the introduction and then a section where the process video starts. You can always just click on that to go directly to the process video, and then that stays true for the end as well. There will be a chapter or a timestamp set up for just viewing these still images and seeing the conclusion to the story. And also, if I start to do reading again, which I think I'll do this month, I think I will go ahead and read my journaling for you. I know some of you really enjoy that and some of you not so much, but in having those chapters and timestamps set up, it does give you the opportunity to skip right over that if it's something that you don't necessarily care for. All right, let me grab my 6-hole punch and we'll get these 2 photos punched, and I can talk to you a little bit more about the design of this layout. All right, so we're going to add the hole punches. Now what I did here is I printed off a photo, which I'll bring over in just a second once I get this part done. I printed off a photo that's going to span the entire double. I feel like something is not quite right. Okay, there, that's better. So it's going to span both sides of a 6x8 layout. So the photo itself, I printed at 13.75 inches wide by 8.25 inches tall. So you can see how it gives me this really horizontal oriented photo, and I love the way that this looks. This is a photo that I took of my desk space. So what you're looking at from the top down, this is a view from the side. So you can see where I've got some of my projects here. I had some albums I was working on, my lights, my iPad. This is a ring light, and then some of the supplies that I pull from as we're working through the process of putting things together. So I printed this photo off, and I wanted there to be a significant amount of white space. And I use that in quotation marks because white space does not necessarily mean a space that is white. It means, at least the way that I conceptualize it, it means that there is a space where there is nothing important going on. That's just kind of blank and boring that you can cover up without it having any drastic effect on the photo itself. So for me, this area of the photo was what I would consider white space of the photo, where I can go ahead and add something here, which is going to be this card, and it doesn't detract from the feel of the photo and the story that the photo is telling. So we've got this card here. My plan, and we're going to just go ahead and do this right now too, is to use some foam tape. This is a roll that I get from scrapbook.com. The tape itself is 1/4 inch wide, which is my favorite size. And I like the roll of it because it allows me to completely cover portions of the cards or the paper. I can go around the entire perimeter, and I will actually put a piece or two in the middle as well, because if you only apply the, I want to call this score tape, if you only apply the foam tape to the outside parts, what will happen is when you get it onto the page, it bows in the middle. So I am going to add a couple of pieces, maybe one here, to prevent that from happening so that it allows this card to be a bit more stable on top of the photo. Okay, so there's that. Now, I'm not going to stick it down yet because I actually want to go ahead and layer some things behind it, and I actually may want to remove this top piece. Let me just remove this. Let's make sure I don't get it on a photo or anything. I will likely use this later. So I'm just going to stick it on the side of my desk. We'll come back to that because I'm going to layer some things behind it, and some of the things I'm layering are going to be dimensional, so it will adjust the level of that card. Okay, so next what I want to do is take this floral card. It says making sense of this, and I'm going to fussy cut this out. So I'm going to skip over this portion because it's kind of boring to watch, but I will say that as you are fussy cutting, I always recommend using precision scissors, which are generally scissors that are a little bit smaller in stature and have really sharp blades. It's easier to control the scissors when they are smaller and to get your cuts where you want them to go. I also recommend moving the card more than you move your hand holding the scissors themselves. And part of this won't matter because it's actually going to go underneath. But I'm going to skip over now to where I've got this piece fully cut out. All right, so now I've got the floral piece all cut out. I'm going to set this photo to the side because this one really, I'm not going to do anything to it except maybe add a date stamp to the bottom. But this one is going to be where everything else is going to go. So the floral element here is something I wanted to put in the middle, but before I do that, I also want to add on this chipboard piece that says, "This just made sense." Because again, that seemed to go really well with the theme of my story. So I am going to cover up making sense of this. I'm going to add adhesive into the white part of the floral piece, and then we're just going to stick down the chipboard like that. And then what I'm thinking is that we'll go ahead and add adhesive here as well. And this is going to stick down directly onto the photo itself. So I want to kind of position this so that I can see the entire title that says, "This just made sense." I'm thinking like right there, and we're just gonna go for it and call that good. All right, so we've got that, and the rest of this card will go at the bottom. I probably could have put it up a little bit further, but that's okay. And then I want to take these pleather florals, and what I have to decide is, do I want to, I think I do. I think I want this one to be slightly on top, and we'll put the smaller one towards the back. So we're just creating this big, huge floral element that's going to go across the top of the card. Like they're spilling out from behind the card. I think that that's pretty cool. I like it. This is a concept that I have done before, and actually it's one that Allie Edwards herself did. Gosh, I don't even remember what the, I think it was with the ampersand kit, where she had taken a card like this and added a whole bunch of ampersands behind. I'm just gonna like, hope we got this right here. Anyway, she put a whole bunch of ampersands behind a journaling card just like this. All right, so we've got that one. I'm gonna try to keep things fairly in the middle. All right, let's add in the second little smaller one. Maybe like right there. That looks good. And then for these I'm actually thinking I might use a piece of that foam tape from earlier. And I'm going to remove the backing so that it can stick to the two pieces there. But I'm also going to put the foam tape in the middle to help prop up the floral itself. Grab it from the top. So that one can go there. And then this one, let's get another piece of the foam tape. And this one can go right here. Okay. This is going to go on top. So it looks like I might need just a tiny bit of foam tape to go on the corners. So I'm glad I ended up taking that off. Just a little piece there and then a little piece over here. Just giving it that stability it needs. Let's double check that again. Yeah, that's a lot better. All right, so let's stick it down then. We'll remove all the backing here. And then I think I'll just add my date stamp to this. And we can call this layout completed. Fairly simple layout to put together, and a lot of times I really enjoy when a layout is simple. I think simple doesn't mean that it's not beautiful. It can still look super good even when there's not a lot going on. And sometimes I think it's easier actually to see what you want to see the story, to feel the story when there is not as much taking up the space. Not always true, right? Like we can always have super embellished layouts too, and those have a certain feeling. But generally when I'm crafting, you may or may not know this by now, I usually just keep things relatively plain and simple. All right, so I am going to date stamp this one. Let's do this as June 1st, 2022, because I don't remember exactly when I wrote this, but that's probably a good enough ballpark. And then I'm going to stick the date stamp down in the corner here. So it's got a little home, and that, friends, is going to complete my layout. All right, so next I'm going to go ahead and read the journaling out loud to you. Feel free to skip over this using the chapters in the progress bar if you like, and you can head over to see the still images in the outro. All right, so here is the journaling. So the title, just because this makes sense now doesn't mean it always will. I said, I feel like every time I find my groove in what I'm doing with life, something changes it that causes it to not make sense in that way anymore. Change has become a constant, and not just the minor changes that make us need to tweak, but big changes with big pivots. Right now, I find myself in this tangle of trying to figure out what makes the most sense for my life, and knowing that when I figure that out, it doesn't mean it will make sense in that way forever. How do I balance working for myself and working for someone else? Do I want to do just one or the other, or do I want to continue doing both? And to what extent? How much of myself, my mind, my creativity, my creativity, my time, my sense of responsibility do I give away to other people? Is it okay to pull back and do less? Should I do more or do differently? Right now, what makes sense is creating what feels good, what I've committed to, and spending the rest of my time focusing on my family and my home. I know that will be a disappointment for some in my community, but it's what feels right now for the stage of life I'm in and what is important to me right now. So again, that's just in relation to a couple of changes that I made. I've already made those changes. And even in the writing, there's always fear that when you change something, there will be disappointment. And really, I think a lot of that's in our heads, because for me, from my experience, there really is not a lot of disappointment from the community, from people, and actually there's a lot of support. So if you are in a state of figuring things out and then having them change and then having them change and then having them change, just know that you are not alone. I think we are all going through that experience always. And, change is the only consistency in life. So you are not alone. I am not alone. You are not alone. All right, friends, I hope you enjoyed seeing how this layout came together today. If you did, I would love a thumbs up on this video down below, and be sure to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. I would love to know if you're willing and comfortable sharing what is a change or a tweak you've had to make in your life lately. Tell me in the comments down below. I am going to be back next Friday with another StoryKitCrush project using the Senses Story Kit, and there is always an accompanying blog post for each layout I put together, which the link to that, in addition to all the supplies I used today, is in the description box down below. Until next time, friends, have a great rest of your day. Enjoy the weekend, and I will see you in the next video.